Hey, good evening, everybody, and welcome to the 46th Comic Art Live show. And it's been a pretty busy week. I hope everybody got to see the show last night. That was a lot of fun. We actually had an error in the scorekeeping at the end of the day. We went re-added the sheets afterwards, and Albert, we misrecorded one of his sales and didn't add a $2,500 sale on there, so he still didn't win, but it brought the show that much closer to a record. Still a little bit short, but Albert still did lose by about $1,800. But that was a pretty crazy evening, and I apologize to everybody whose chats I might have missed and claims I misclaimed during that. We had never had a show like that where the chats were going by so quickly that we literally couldn't see many of them as they went by, and we're spending more time scrolling up the chats than actually seeing what people were saying. So definitely a lesson learned on that one. I'm not sure what we'll do the next time. We might have Albert on the show, but we'll work that out one way or another. So I'm going to, before I bring my guests in tonight, I wanted to let everybody know that tomorrow night we're going to be doing a watch party for the Focus Comic Link auction. Just something fun. A bunch of collectors are just going to hang out, and we'll talk about the lots after they're over. We've got, let's see, Larry, Mikhail, and Kavi are going to be joining me, and we probably got room for two more. So if anybody wants to participate live while we just kind of hang out, we'll be talking just about art and the lots. Let me know, shoot me an email, and we can work something out for tomorrow evening. So, and I should tell you, on Saturday, Mike isn't going to be able to make it. So he's already picked out all of his artwork. So I am going to fill in for Mike at 5 p.m. on Saturday when we do that $1,000 and under show. So something to mark down. Should be a lot of fun. Me against Anthony, technically with Mike's inventory. So we'll see how that goes. So without further ado, let me bring in McSpidey Fan. Hey, Scott.
Hey,
how's it going?
I'm good. How's everybody doing?
Well, everybody is here and ready for another show. So it's nice to have you on the show. I mean, we've got to do the collector conversation. So I was learning, got to learn a little bit about your approach to CAF galleries, which I thought was awesome. I mean, we've now seen Wingoism. The people are followers of Wingoism. So I think that's pretty neat. There's, you've now become, your own kind of meme as far as being able to interpret other people's galleries. So that's what I thought. I was like, this would be a good opportunity to have you on a chat, because you've actually had a CAF gallery since 2005. I knew it had been a while, but I didn't know that you had been around that long. So thank you.
Is there a sequence in my head, like number, like under 100, or do you guys have a member number?
Believe it or not, yeah, your member number is 4,548. But right now the numbers now are around 150,000. So I mean, and not active users, of course, but yes. So you were there early on. Anybody under 5,000 is an early adopter to what we were doing. So.
Right, second.
Yes, you did. Absolutely. So, I think that, you know how we kind of go through these things and talk about origins stories and everything. But one of the things, that I wanted to learn a bit more about, and maybe boring a little bit to everybody, but it's perfect for the PDF you sent me, is just to kind of go over your background a bit, which I think would explain a bit about how, your approach to being analytical about viewing other collectors' galleries, and sort of how your work profession kind of plays into the way you approach the hobby. So so we actually have that. Well, here, let me just bring it up on the screen here. We've got the Scott Wingo McSpidey Fan origin story presentation that we get to go through here. So I'll let you take it away, Scott.
Yeah, and then funny backstory. I was at work and it was like 1 o'clock. I was like, "Man, I'm kind of tired today. Why am I dragging?" That was like, I was just exhausted from watching Albert and Mike duke it out. That was like classic. That was really epic. Well, it was interesting because it was kind of like you knew what was coming, but not knowing what was coming. I felt like Mike had like some aces up his sleeve. So he was like dropping a Ditko and then a Kirby. And then I even forget, like, it's like so jumbled in my mind, I have to go back and watch it. And like Albert was reeling, for a while, Albert was safely ahead. So that was good TV.
It was. Yeah. And it was so tough for me because they were asking me questions, and of course I'm like, I'm not gonna, I can't tell you who the other guys bring in. What well, then they're like, well, just tell me the artist. No, I can't even tell you which artist they're going to bring. You just gotta go into this cold turkey, and so it was still good. The funny thing was, a change Albert made at about 30 minutes before the show probably cost him a victory, because anyway, he put the Green Lantern piece in. And that's the one piece that didn't sell. He changed it to that, and his other piece was about half that price, maybe even less. And so I think it probably would have sold. but it seemed like the right movie when he did it. I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, that sounds like a good piece. You never know what's going to sell. But
you could tell there's a little bit of a chess match going on there. That was fun too. Like Berkey was overselling the underdog thing. I was like, he's bringing some heat. He's like a little too overselling it.
I know. And when I saw he had the Charles Schultz piece and the Wrightson, I thought there's just no way he's going to sell either one of those. So, and ironically, he sold the Charles Schultz an hour after the show. Somebody who came in at 10 o'clock and didn't go live. They actually started from the beginning, waited and went all the way till about 11:30. And when the show was over, they realized the Schultz didn't sell. They contacted him and bought it. So
wow.
I know.
Nice. Good.
I don't know how he does it, but yeah, he's a miracle worker.
Yeah. Okay, back to the origin story. So I just had a coffee, so I'll be up for this. So I'm not try not to bore you guys. And I thought my dad, he didn't give me much advice, but he always said be a little different. So I thought I would try out a little different approach here. As Bill mentioned, my comic life and my work life are kind of hopelessly intertwined. So I wanted to kind of explain that. So first of all, next one.
All right.
Yeah, so I'm from a little, I think we skipped one.
Oh, did I?
Yeah.
Oh, there we go. Sorry about that.
Yeah. I'm from a little town in the middle of nowhere, South Carolina called Aiken. Aiken's a kind of an odd town. So there's like 10,000 people in Aiken, and it's known for horses, golf. It's near the Masters. But then the really weird thing about Aiken is it's near a nuclear site where they breed uranium for nuclear bombs called the Savannah River site. Yes. So my high school is literally kind of poor local folks, which included myself, and then the kids of PhD nuclear physicists. So our science fair was really funny. It's like volcanoes with vinegar and baking soda, and then like Geiger counters and fission reactors. so it's a really weird experience growing up. The only thing that was unique about my side, other than being in such a weird environment, was my dad was an entrepreneur. And in my house, we had a Vax. You're probably old enough to remember some of these stories that you hear for people having the punch cards and all. This was like one generation older than punch cards. So in my house, we had 3 of those giant computer boxes. And so I had access to a mainframe in my house since I was born. So I remember playing some of the early adventure games and things that were text only on that pretty early on. So that was kind of unique. And then it was very unusual that my dad was an entrepreneur. It was kind of I didn't even know how to describe it to other people. I was like, he works on computers, and that was kind of it. So then the other thing about Aiken, like a lot of small towns, is there's only 2 schools. So I went to South Aiken High School as opposed to the one in North. That's on the next slide.
All right.
And then you can skip that. Home of the Fighting Thoroughbreds, if there's any other alumni. And then, so, I was super into computers in high school, and I had the classic Apple II, and then I got the portable 2C, which has a giant monitor still. That used to be portable. The computer was portable, the monitor wasn't. And it drove my dad crazy because he thought I should be learning to program, and all I wanted to do was play games. And he also thought I should be interested in business, and all I cared about was games. So then he kind of cleverly slid a magazine to me one day, and it's this Fortune magazine. And it had a big impact on me. Number one, I finally found someone geekier than I am. So that's Bill Gates there, if you don't recognize him. And then number 2, the headline's pretty interesting. There's this deal that he did at age 30 that made him $350 million. And I also like really fast cars. So I wanted a Lamborghini. So I was like, well, this clearly is the unlock for how to get a Lamborghini and as many video games as I want. So if you read that issue, it's all about how that $350 million deal is the Microsoft IPO, which is kind of funny because it's a really small IPO. That's like what Microsoft was worth, and now it's worth $2 trillion. So that's kind of funny in a historic context. Mm-hmm. So not being like 16 or 17, not knowing any better, I said, I want a Lamborghini, I want to take a company public, and I want to be a millionaire by the time I'm 30. So those were my goals when I was 16. So a little bit weird probably, but I have a lot of weird hobbies, as you know. Next slide. So then I went to so then my comic book story kind of parallels this. So My memory is I was a biggest Saturday morning cartoons. Kids don't understand this today, but our entertainment was we would get up and watch cartoons on Saturday, and you only had like 2 or 3 channels, right? And in Aiken, I think we had like 1.5 channel. So it's pretty locked into I think NBC and maybe ABC if you held the antenna the right way. And I remember watching the Spidey animated series, and I think it's the vintage '68 one. I don't think anything else had come out since then. But then I realized that, you could get more stories in comics. So I started to get some Spidey comics. And then Star Wars came out. I'm a huge Star Wars fan. I don't know if you can see some of the Star Wars stuff. And then I got heavier into comics. And I remember my first comic was the Spider-Man 151 there. And that was just, that one's pretty epic with the cover. I think that's Ross Andrew. And then I had my neighbor, he was also into comics. He was my best friend. And we had like literally a 18-month falling out because Aiken has one comic book store and they don't have new comics. So you'd have to wait for some adult that was into comics to travel to another town to then sell the comics there. So one day we went in there together and this giant size Superman and Amazing Spider-Man was there. And we knew about it because we'd read about it in the comics that we could see. We were always like a year or two behind. And we got in a big epic fight over it. He ended up getting it and it was very sad. So I didn't speak for him for like a year and a half. But that one had like a big impact on me. It was kind of, as a kid, you're like, oh my God, DC versus Marvel, what's going to happen? And then of course I loved the Phoenix storyline and all that stuff. But then when I went to college, took a little break from comics. I did engineering in undergrad, and that kind of coming from Aiken, I think within South Carolina, which is ranked like number 48 or 49 in the United States from a school perspective, Aiken's probably like at the bottom end of there. So it was school was really hard for me. So it took a fair amount of time off from comics. So next slide. I went to South Carolina undergrad. And for you Canadians, it's a gamecock, and a gamecock is an ass-kicking chicken, if you're wondering what a gamecock is. And then what was interesting there is I got a summer gig at NCR. They had a local, actually computer manufacturer, and they hired me to test some computers. And then that will come back later in my story. Next one. And I graduated during a depression, or not a recession, I should say, in 2000. So then decided to go to grad school and get a master's in computer engineering up here at NC State in Raleigh, where I am now. So got a master's there. And then next slide. And then as I was graduating, the guy I had worked with at NCR, my boss, he had moved to Connecticut and started a startup with his family called Bristol Technology. So I had a job offer out of school from IBM, Motorola, and a startup up in Connecticut. So I decided to take the startup and went to work for a startup. And so that was from 1991 to 93. And what was cool about that, next slide, was it allowed me to get back in comics in a pretty big way. So being up in Connecticut, I was like literally on a train that was like 45 minutes down into New York City. And they had this really cool comic book store in the mall there called Moondogs, which was really neat. I don't know if anyone's ever been to those. So it's kind of a really big retail kind of concept. I think it went bankrupt. But then I went to my old faithful, which is Amazing Spider-Man, and discovered effectively Todd McFarlane. I think I got the very end of his Spider-Man run right before Spawn, and I was like, oh my God, who is this artist? It blew my mind because I'd been a pretty regular Spider-Man, and then I kind of went and backfilled the years I'd missed. So then I found kind of his run on Amazing, and then he came out with Spawn, and so I was all in on that. I think I have all the trillion specialty covers they did and everything. And then next one. And then in one of the issues, it talked about when, I think a year after he launched Spawn, he launched the toy line. This is back when it was called Todd Toys. And I think they actually, Mattel sued him because they had a character named Todd. It's like Barbie's boyfriend before Ken or something.
Right.
But if you look closely there, it says that he's going to be in New York. So I convinced my wife. I was like, look, let's go into the city for the weekend. You can go anywhere you want. I'll go to every apparel store you want to go to. I just really want to go to this thing at FAO Schwartz. Well, we show up there and the line wraps around FAO Schwartz, like literally figure 8 around all the blocks. So it literally took like a whole day to get through it. And in line, I was behind. I had like some Spawn toys and a Spawn #1, something like that, for him to sign. And ultimately, I got it done. But what happened is the guy in front of me had art, and then the guy behind me had art, and they had some page from Amazing Spider-Man. That was the first time I'd ever seen that you could buy original art, and it blew my mind. And I'm kind of a hobby economist, and I very quickly deduced that it never added up to me as a kid. Like I would stretch my budget and spend like $50 on a comic, and then maybe try to go sell it, and I would sell it for $20, or look in the price guide, and they would always offer half of the price guide. And I was like, well, this isn't economically a very good hobby. And then once I realized there was one of one stuff out there, I was like, all right, the economic principle of scarcity means this is going to be a way smarter thing to invest in than comics. So really kind of in 93, 94, I went heavy. I just stopped buying comics pretty much and went all in on original art.
Wow.
Then after 3 years up in Connecticut, next one, I realized I love startups, but not cold weather. Literally being from South Carolina, where it's during the summers, it's like 105. I had the worst time in the Northeast in the winters there. I never realized that it was like gray all day during the winter and like dark at like 4. And it was like super depressing for me being a South Carolinian. So moved back down to Raleigh in 1995 and started my first company. This one's interesting because Maureen probably knows a bit about it. I don't know how much you code, but so I was enamored with C++, the programming language, but then there was a class library that came with it called Microsoft Foundation Classes. So started a company that basically extended that and sold components, what we would call UI components today, called Stingray Software. So started that in 95, and then by 1998, we had grown it to kind of a 12 million run rate and had, pretty much every Visual C++ developer knew who we were or was a user. But then I realized we had kind of maxed out what we could do there. In the world of startups, there's this concept of addressable market, total addressable market, and we kind of captured the whole addressable market. So we ended up selling that to a public company.
Wow. So Ruben wanted to know, how old were you in 1995 when you started Stingray?
27.
Dang.
Yep. Yeah. Sold it literally 2 months before I turned 30. So got to check one of my goals off on that one.
Right. Did you have a Lamborghini by then?
No, by then I had a kid, and I don't know if you know or not, but Lamborghinis don't have room for a car seat.
Well, then there you go. That rules that one out.
Yeah.
But I will say, Maureen she was a big C++ developer and really still is. I mean, we still program in classic ASP and only dabble in .NET a little bit. So really that's her main forte, and all the application work that she ever did when she worked for the companies that she worked for before we went and started doing our own thing, were all very much written in C++ and that sort of thing. So, yep. Yeah.
I still have people today, because I've changed my career so much, they don't 100% tie it back to me. And I wrote books. I wrote several programming books. So I'd be surprised if Maureen doesn't remember either one of the books or Stingray Software. There's a high probability she was a user somewhere in her career.
Oh yeah, no, I'll ask you. She did a lot of work with AutoCAD. She wrote applications for that, and dabbled in many different things before becoming a web developer. So. Cool. I will ask her, though, if she remembers the name.
Yeah. So selling a company was interesting, and the timing was fairly good. So next slide. So in the late 90s, as you know, so 1997 is largely kind of pegged to kind of like when the web and e-commerce were born. So Amazon started in 97. And I was just enamored with the internet and e-commerce, and having just sold a company, I took my collecting up a notch, especially on Star Wars stuff. I started collecting life-size Star Wars stuff. So if anyone wants to come to Raleigh sometime and see my life-size Star Wars collection, we could do that. That's a whole nother collection that's on the side there. But then I started, in the early days of e-commerce, what was interesting, and it kind of reminds me of the NFT world, but I'm going to try to limit what I say there. There was just this explosion of places to buy stuff, and there was actually more auction sites than there were normal, what we would think of today as kind of buy it now or e-commerce sites. So I was thinking, I had to put in a year at the company I sold to. And in that year, I was like really digging into e-commerce and understanding the underlying technology and payments and auctions and all that stuff. Very early eBay user and whatnot. A comparison shopping engine launched where it would aggregate all of the fixed price sites. And I was like, and I actually had this problem with collectible art. I think Profiles may have been around. So I would buy stuff obviously from eBay. eBay original art was humming pretty good at this time. And then not Heritage. This is too early for Heritage. I don't think Heritage had art at this point. But there's like four places I would go to look for art. Some of them were like, like Profiles if it wasn't Profiles. And then the way it would work is I would have like a monthly budget of $1,000 or something to spend. And I would want to tee it up where I'd want to bid on a page on eBay. And if I didn't want it, I would then want to go over here and do this. And I finally was like, I should, if I'm having this problem, maybe other people are. Let's go start a company around this. So started a company called Auction Rover. And this was like exactly the opposite of my first company. My first company, we did no venture capital. I was ridiculously terrible at raising venture capital. The company was profitable, which ironically doesn't help you raise venture capital. So they're like, you're profitable and you want to raise venture capital? It's like, yeah, we want to expand and we're going to lose a little bit to do that. And they're like, the worst thing you could do is take our money. And I was like, how does this work? Anyway, so at Auction Rover, we just set up and realized that we had bitten off a really big problem because from a data set situation, auctions, we would start kind of crawling the auction sites, and then 7 days later, all those auctions would change over. So you have our data set was changing every 7 days, essentially. So right. We started building it on SQL Server, and SQL Server just like fell over on its face, and we had to figure out like a lot of sharding and things that you can kind of do naturally today. But anyway, so this was interesting. So raised, before we had even really done much, we'd launched a site and it worked really well. We started to get inbound venture capitalists calling and they were like, we'll fund you. And finally I was like, okay, so we raised some capital. And then I really liked this company called GoTo.com, and they're the ones that invented paid search. So they essentially kind of took the yellow book and put it into paid search ads. Mm-hmm. It was kind of funny at the time. Everyone thought it was controversial that they were like evil, monetizing the internet and stuff. And now we like click on those ads like candy. And I thought we would take their model and bring it over to the auction world. So the whole business model at Auction Rover was a search engine that would bring buyers in and get them addicted to the buying tools we had developed, largely starting with collectibles, but then moving on to other stuff. And then we would have seller tools as well. Before we could build out much of it, we got acquired by GoTo, and then they changed their name to Overture, and then subsequently were acquired by Yahoo. So that was literally in 6 months, we raised capital, launched, and this was like internet bubble time. So I was literally sleeping in the office for like 3 days a week, and it was just total chaos. So that was an exciting second company, and then outside of that, so the timing was really good on this one because the internet bubble burst right after we sold, like literally 30 days after. Go next slide. So it was good. It was good that we rode that out. And so we were at this company Overture for a year. And then what happened is we had done the buying side of Auction Rover, and we started working on the selling side. So seller tools for eBay sellers. So after the internet bubble burst, a lot of these auction sites flamed out and went away, but eBay and Amazon kind of persisted, as we know today. So what started happening is these eBay sellers started to find these selling tools we had done, and we really only did them as a gateway into the search engine, but they didn't care about that. They were just using them to list on eBay because eBay's selling tools were so crappy that ours were just a little bit better, and it drove all these people to us. Then one day I was looking, and we had this, our top seller was this nice lady in probably near you, in the Midwest, that sold like, these craft things she would find on eBay. And her name's Granny Goose. And then one day I was looking, I was like, oh, I wonder what Granny Goose did in July. And our number one seller was IBM. And they had sold a bunch of servers on eBay, like $2 million. And the software was $20 a month. So I was like, I'm not the biggest entrepreneurial genius, but I think they could afford to pay a little bit more than $20 a month for 2 million in servers. So then very rapidly, Motorola started doing the same thing, Sun Microsystems, Nokia. What happened is they had all this excess equipment and they couldn't find a place to sell it. So they were just dumping it on eBay. And eBay at this point was almost all collectibles, largely Beanie Babies. If you remember, people were buying, like, I can't remember their names, but little bears for $400 and stuff. And so then we said, well, what if we took the software that was really built for individuals that were kind of going to garage sales and stuff, and we kind of Henry Fordized it, and we made it easy for Nokia to sell 1 million phones on eBay. So the name of that company was, and then what happened is the company that bought us, they started to compete head on with Google, and then they decided to go buy Alta Vista, Dogpile, all those other search engines to go compete with Google. And they said, hey, we're going to focus on this and shut you guys down. And I said, well, what if we took this little kernel of an idea over here and just spun it out, and we'll give you guys 10% of the company? And they said, okay, it was kind of an ego blow to their CEO because he had spent a lot of money buying it, and it was hard for him to let us walk away. So he said, well, what if we would do that if eBay will invest? So then I was like, okay, great. So then I had to fly out to eBay and ultimately got them to invest, and we spun out that company literally 20 years ago now. We just celebrated it last month as ChannelAdvisor. So then I'll take, I'm not going to tell a 20-year story here. So we raised 90 million at venture capital. I've ultimately gotten pretty good at raising venture capital. The secret is never to make money, I've discovered. At least profits, never make profits. And then,
so your trip to eBay was actually successful then, I take it.
It was, yeah. And I'd actually gotten to know eBay. Back on the Auction Rover story, you'll appreciate this. eBay didn't have APIs as we know them today. So we were scraping them. We were pounding the hell out of eBay because we were pulling every item out. And then, as an auction would close, we would go scrape it more aggressively. So they called one day, and they actually sent a cease and desist by registered mail, and it freaked me out, right? And it said, you have to stop scraping eBay, or we're going to sue you, and we're going to bury you because we're eBay. So I literally got on a plane that day and flew out to eBay and camped out until Meg Whitman would meet with me. And I was like, don't do this, because I'm actually sending you all these buyers. I had all the data, and it said, look, I'm sending you I don't forget the numbers, but a lot of buyers. And at this point, I described to her what we now call affiliate programs. Amazon called it an associate program. Yep. I said, why don't you create this program so we can send you buyers, and then you should actually be willing to pay us because we're sending them. So it actually is one of those lucky things that it flipped the other way. And then we got them to build an API. So that was a little exciting thing. So I had a relationship. So when flash forward to this ChannelAdvisor thing, and at ChannelAdvisor, they loved us because, we were, at Auction Rover on the selling side, they loved us. So we were able to, they got very excited about us selling IBM and those guys. They noticed very quickly. Another clever thing we did is every listing we put on eBay had a little chiclet at the bottom. You see them all the time now, but it was kind of like powered by Auction Rover, and then we changed it over to ChannelAdvisor. So eBay ultimately invested and got to know the leader at that point was Jeff Jordan, who then subsequently did PayPal and OpenTable, and he's at Andreessen Horowitz now.
Right. Well, I started working with eBay in 2005 as an affiliate when they were still working through Commission Junction, and then they brought everything in house around 2006. So I guess I have you to thank for the work that I've done with them since that time.
Yeah, we have a lot of fun stories there. Like we would call them and say, your server's down, and they'd be like, no, it's not. We're like, yeah, it is. We have a guy at ChannelAdvisor that can tell when their systems are funky before they can.
Nice.
So we self-funded ChannelAdvisor, made it through. It was a little scary because started it right before 9/11, which caused a kind of a crazy recession. So that was exciting. Raised 90 million in venture capital, and then ultimately, next slide. Was able to take it public in 2013. So that was a lot of fun. So we did the New York Stock Exchange, and so I got to ring the bell and do all that cool going public stuff that you see on TV if you're into that. Still a public company. I'm still on the board, and our stock symbol is ECOM, ECOM. That's not stock advice. And then I'm a big CNBC junkie. So I got to meet Jim Cramer, and that's fun. He does this show, Mad Money. You may have seen as you're flipping through the channels.
Oh yeah.
Fun inside story. He's super short. So he's like 5 feet tall. He's on a box there. He does all his interviews on a box. He carries around. He has an assistant who's like the box assistant. And he or she just carries around a box for him all the time. Yeah.
Well, I hope that comes with benefits.
Yeah, I think he does pretty good. And then after running ChannelAdvisor for 2 years as a public company. Realized going public is fun, and running a public company is really just a financial kind of gig, which is okay. It's just, but I like the engineering and product and problem solving side. So started a company, Spiffy, in 2014, a little bit in parallel with ChannelAdvisor. And that's what I do now. And Spiffy is on-demand car care. It's actually the furthest away from our hobby of all the things I've done. But at ChannelAdvisor, it was a lot of fun because, we ended up with 3,000 customers, and about $10 billion worth of transaction goes through ChannelAdvisor software. So what ChannelAdvisor does is we have retailers, brands, and kind of power sellers that sell on our software, and then we're connected into all these different places they can sell. Another big thing we did at ChannelAdvisor in the early days is bet big on Amazon. That was smart in hindsight, to bet big on those guys. That their marketplace became very quickly dwarfed what eBay was up to.
Yeah, well, without question. I mean, and eBay still tries to emulate Amazon as best they can, and they, was certainly the wrong path for them to have taken themselves on.
Yeah, copying someone that's way ahead of you is never good. Got to be a little bit different and have a better buyer experience.
Exactly. Well, and that's where, why third-party tools always worked well for people who worked with eBay, because eBay's tools were always so bad. They needed people to come in and actually invent better tools, which most third parties did. So, that's always been the number one complaint with eBay for many reasons.
Yeah, even today, we're eBay's largest partner by far of all the different seller tools out there at ChannelAdvisor. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So I've been at the comic art thing for 30 years now. And, my system, and I hinted at this on the collector conversation, but, I really focused in on the McFarlane thing because, I knew the art, I loved it, and by focusing on it, the supply is pretty constrained. So it actually forced me to kind of stick in a budget. And I've gone literally, I pulled up this one because I was looking, Heritage actually goes way back. And this was one of my first Heritage purchases. And I keep a whole log of all this stuff. I think I went 3 years without buying a page because I just, these pages don't flip up that often.
Mm-hmm.
And this one's kind of fun. I think if you can see there, let's see. It's the Hulk Splash for $1,800 in 2007. So that's what the long game looks like, right?
Right, exactly.
And I remember this was the page I bought that year because it was kind of what I had time and could afford. And then, there's lean years in there. 08 and 09 was some lean years from the recession. We barely made it through that. And, I had to allocate all my capital to ChannelAdvisor to get through that crazy thing. So there was like 3 or 4 years in there without art. But, if you just kind of keep at it and make some small course corrections, it's awesome. And then, kudos to you. Obviously, I've been on CAF for quite a while. And, that's been the source of a lot of my knowledge and understanding of where all these pages are. I've made like 20 McFarlane friends through the ages. There's like I always call him Yosemite Sam. Everyone has like 3 names. So there's Yosemite Sam as his email, Matt Ellis. And then I think he's synced that up now on his CAF. There's a Justin, a Matt. There's tons of guys that I've traded with, and we share knowledge behind the scenes, and none of that would have existed without CAF.
Well, since we've been doing these live streams, that's the number one takeaway that I've had is that, the relationships that CAF was actually able to create for so many people. I never heard anything about it. I met people, but I didn't really understand that everybody else was really, building friendships and through similar collections and those sorts of things. It's really the biggest joy I've gotten out of the last year and a half since we've been doing these things is learning how people really interacted on CAF and, made friendships. I think that, that was like the last thing because we were never really a very good social platform, but clearly people found their way through the muck that is CAF still today, and we're able to communicate and make those kinds of connections that I never would have thought was going on. I just kind of thought it was people showing off their collections, and beyond that, I wasn't really thinking that those sorts of things were happening. But lo and behold, when there's never seen.
I didn't even know you're the man behind your like total Wizard of Oz because to my knowledge, there's nowhere where you can go and get like an about me page and like, hey, I'm Bill. This is why I started CAF. It's probably on there, but like everything on CAF, I'm sure it's buried somewhere.
I don't even know if it is. Well, I always approach it. CAF wasn't about me. I didn't want it to be about me. I was happy being the mechanic, and really Maureen's the mechanic, right? She does all the heavy lifting. I just kind of, give her a task list, every week, and she accomplishes it and we move on. But yeah, that really, I was just happy not being known at the end of the day. It was just, you know what I mean? I get
it. I'm an introvert too. So yeah.
Right. I mean, and as long as, CAF really became our full-time job about 12 years ago. And I do owe a lot of that to eBay. I mean, with the affiliate program, there was some glory days with working with eBay when they were a lot more open to new creative ideas. I went to every affiliate summit that they had in San Jose and over for a 10-year period. But because, we were doing really well. At one point where I think we were selling $350,000, $400,000 a month, which of course was probably nothing compared to you, but for the little niche that we were focused on, we were doing really well for them. And they didn't have, what they liked about, I would be in there with the people who were from like IGN and all the other major affiliates, but with their marketing teams. I was the only guy there that was a nuts and bolts programmer. But they liked that, they liked having somebody in there who could just go in and tell them, and I beta tested all their new platform updates and things. So but everything has changed there so much in the last few years.
Yeah, it has. Yeah. The new guy leading it, he actually is old school eBay. They bought him into, there was actually a big controversy. I don't know if you've read this, but there's this little newsletter called Auction Bites, and it changed its name to E-commerce Bites, run by this really nice couple called the Steiners.
Yeah.
So the CEO of eBay was Devin Wenig, and he kind of complained to some underlings about it, and they took it on themselves to like terrorize this couple. It's like the craziest story I've ever heard. They would like send them pig heads in boxes and write racist stuff on their house and stuff. They're all in jail right now. So he got kicked out. Ultimately, that I don't think they could tie it to him, but he that was the end of his tenure. So they bought in an old school guy, and he gets it. But I think there's a lot of history to unwind.
Right? Didn't they bring in? I knew all about that story. But isn't the new guy from Amazon, I think, or something? So
he was old school eBay, like old school meaning like 2005, I think, kind of time frame, and then I think he went to Amazon, and then he's back at eBay.
Okay, all right. I thought yep. Now I keep on top of it because they're not a main factor in the revenue that CAF makes today, but they certainly help still every month. Whereas I used to lean very heavily on them for revenue, now they're a much smaller part. Whereas they might have been 75% one day, but now they're more 15-20%. So because I got concerned with the way that the program was always going, and they just were very inconsistent with their business practices and scared me.
It's kind of sad. Yeah, I love eBay, but they're the one company that'll take a gun, shoot themselves in the foot, and then reload and shoot them.
Exactly.
Like, dude, what are you doing? This thing failed, and now you're like tripling down on it. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's eBay in a nutshell. But so back to 91. You're in the line with the McFarlane line, and you see the art. So when did you make you said that you realized, as the uniqueness of the collectible at that point, that was where you were going to turn your focus. So how did you get started with collecting art? What was your first purchase? And then, how did you go from there?
Yeah. So I was behind the line with this dude for like literally 12 hours. So I got to talk a lot, and I was surprised how big it was. And he told me about pencils and ink and all that stuff. And then, I think I immediately went to eBay, and that was where I bought the bulk. You used to be able to buy McFarlane pages on eBay on a pretty regular basis. So I'm pretty sure, some of I don't know my exact first page historically, but it was a McFarlane page. I think it was a McFarlane story page. I quickly also learned that in my world, you have the Spider-Man pages, and then there you have Amazing Spider-Man, which is got the most demand, and then the Spider-Man series is about 10 to 20% lower. And then there was all this other McFarlane stuff, so Hulk pages and Infinity Inc. And I think in the very early days, I couldn't really stretch to get any of the Spider-Man stuff. Even then, it was probably $500, but in hindsight, but I should have gone and gotten all that. So I think I kind of nibbled away at some of the Hulk pages and things like that. And then and then some Bagley pages. I'll show you an early Bagley page, early-ish. But then I really focused in. I got my first Spider-Man page, and I was just like, well, this is all I want going forward. Like the quality was like, for me, it was like 20 times better than anything else I was getting.
Sure. And well, but you certainly have a huge collection of McFarlane Spidey. If any, just so everybody knows, Scot's link is in the description on YouTube, so feel free to be checking out his CAF gallery while we're talking, because he's got one hell of a collection, and I've admired it for a very long time. But yeah, so it's Spidey. But the thing is, are you satiated with the Spider-Man work now? Because I know you've picked up, I always see your CAF gallery grow a little bit, and I've seen some of the Infinity, just the different pages that you've been picking up from Todd. So it's not exclusive to Spidey nowadays, right?
Yeah, and then I figured Heritage had an Infinity Ink drop of literally like 100 pages in 02 and 03. And they were $50 a pop, and I was like, I think I should get these too, because A, they're available, and then B, again, a scarce thing. The more, so Spider-Man McFarlane is the scarcest, but if I can kind of grab up as much of the non stuff and it's cheap, that should create more demand. And if I can take more supply off the market, then that should create more demand.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
I have no idea what the causality of that is, but that was the strategy.
Nothing wrong with
You've
it.
ever played? It's like Sellers of Catan. Have you ever played that game?
I have not. I know the game.
It's a resource kind of. It's an economic game, and then you very quickly realize that or like Monopoly, right? Whoever owns the choice real estate gets people coming around the horn.
So Ruben wanted to know, probably because he wants to know if you've outbid him before, but what your eBay handle was in the late 90s.
Yeah, it's still the same as Scot Rover.
Scot Rover.
Yeah.
All right, well, there you go. Sorry,
Alfredo, I sniped Alfredo. He's still mad at me. It was a recent Star Wars speech.
Oh, no. Well, that's how it goes. As Ruben has told us, that sniping is the key to victory.
I agree. I am a hardcore sniper.
And yeah, so Scot Rover, that is what he said, Ruben. I believe that's correct.
Yep. Yeah.
All right. Well, why don't we look at a few pieces of art?
Let's look smart.
No, I'm going to do it a little differently tonight, though, because I usually make a slide. And I thought, tonight I'm going to do it where I can actually zoom in, like when I'm doing the recaps for auctions and things. I thought that might be more fun. We can see a few more details than just looking at a regular slide on the screen. So here, let me get this added in here.
Yeah, so some of my early on, if you think about when you focus in on an artist, and I said this kind of on the collector conversation, you start to think about this taxonomy of like, okay, what is my priority here? And I very quickly fell in love with Venom. So if I can ever get a Venom page, I go all in on that. So this is a Venom page from 315. And what I love about Todd's Venom is he makes him look pretty insane. Like over on the left there, you can see, kind of the dementia in his face. Oh, right. And he kills somebody and then he like kisses them and he's like, "Oh, I'm so sorry, an innocent died." And then he's like, "Now I'm going to kill Spider-Man for doing that," when he was actually the guy that killed the innocent.
Of course.
Yeah. And then the perspective of this one is just, classic McFarlane. What I love about McFarlane is he breaks all the rules, and that's ultimately what I think got him fired from Marvel. So, but that's what I love. And this is a really good example of the spaghetti webbing. So I love the spaghetti webbing, and I also, as an entrepreneur, I'm sure you guys know the urban legend is that they kept, I forget who the editor was, but he kept kind of telling Todd, that's not how we draw Spidey's webbing, and he made it like more and more and more spaghetti-ish until it was almost like crazily so by the time you get to the Spider-Man books.
See, I don't know a lot of the background on Todd's run on Spidey, unfortunately. I know the art, but I don't know his story with Marvel and the issues that he had while he was working through Spidey.
Yeah, and he also created Venom, and there was a lot of back and forth around the tongue and the teeth. Like people thought it was too scary, and Todd really pushed the edge on that.
Wow. Well, I think this is one of your, if not your most viewed piece in your collection.
I used that as a guide for what to show this evening.
Well, that's where I actually started when I was looking through your CAF gallery. I'm like, oh, that's where I usually start, there or comments, since I started in views. So
Yeah. Well, I did get new scans for tonight. So this is a fresh scan. This is much better than my CAF scan. The problem with being at this for a while is I think like the stuff I uploaded in 05 is 20 pixels or something.
all right,
It's
well,
it's almost like 8-bit Mario kind of quality.
Yeah, back
so
in that,
I need to go back and rescan a bunch and stuff.
Well, in '05, we didn't have premium membership, so I bet you we probably resized most things to about 800 pixels tall. So yeah, unfortunately, most of the artwork prior to premium memberships is tiny, and so I'm glad you made a good scan. You can replace them too.
Yeah, that's on my task list to do this weekend for these pages.
Awesome. Here, let's pull up the next piece here. Oh, wait a minute. This is the back of that. I'm sorry. I forgot about that.
Yeah. So anyone that collects McFarlane art, the thing that punches you in the face is there's prices on the back of them. I think Mikhail was talking about this. So this page originally sold to somebody for $150. And what the super old school folks tell me is they used to be able to write in somewhere, and maybe it was, what is that magazine, that CG Comic Buyer's Guide?
Yeah, the Comic Buyer's Guide. Yeah.
Yeah. So apparently Todd would give all the art to his brother-in-law. So his wife, Wanda, and then his friend Al Simmons, I think, sold some too. So you could evidently just write in and get these pages for like $100. So yeah. So that's kind of humbling.
Yeah. Yeah.
I did not get this page for $150. I wish I did.
Let's see. Yeah, that's probably true. I'll just answer a question here. NSM, I can tell you, we rename every image that you upload. So that might have been like an old problem where we didn't rename the file names. And so, yeah, if you tried replacing something, that probably wouldn't have let you. But yeah, I'd say for at least the last 14 years, we've always renamed the files to some gobbledygook extension so that we never run into issues like that. So if you're having a problem, you can always let me know. Shoot me the specifics. I'd love to try it and see if I can break the site too. Wow.
So this one is, I have you on my small screen. Let me.
Here, I can.
Yeah, there you go. So this is from issue 300. So issue 300 is an important one because, it's issue 300. So there's people get very aggressive about this issue. So you have Venom versus Black Spidey. So it doesn't get better than that.
Yeah. Wow.
You got your spaghetti webbing. You've got another cool perspective of the fall that's happening here. And then a cool sound effect at the end. Pliff.
Now, you've owned these pages for quite some time, I imagine. It wasn't.
Yeah, this is all vintage. I think I've owned this one since 98, 99. The Venom one is a little newer. The first one we looked at, I think that's an 06, 07 page.
Wow. Well, this is amazing. I love this one too. And from issue 300.
Yeah, the other thing that a lot of people criticize McFarlane for is he doesn't do the anatomy right. But he's in interviews, he talks about purposely doing that on Spider-Man because he was like, he wanted to break kind of the Ditko, the kind of classic Marvel look of Spider-Man by making him look all crouchy and messing with his anatomy a lot. In this page, you get a little bit of it in that fall. I have other pages where Mikhail's page is actually a really good example of this, where he's in a web and his legs are like kind of impossibly almost behind his arms. There's a lot of cool pages like that where, the anatomy is all wacky, or his fingers look like they're kind of broken because he kind of wanted him to look more spidery. And he got a huge pushback from the editorial team at Marvel. But Marvel had a hard time because once he started doing this stuff, sales started skyrocketing. So they were kind of stuck in a rock and a hard place.
Right. Yeah, well,
then they ultimately gave him his own book. That was the origin of Spider-Man. They were kind of like, I think it got to be so crazy, and he wanted to write, and they finally said, "Okay, go do your own comics, so that we don't have to deal with all these other, the editor complaining about you every day."
Well, I saw some early. Remember, you said what I could toy around with for the default image for the show when you put your head on that image, and there were many thigh gap comments on it. But it made me think about the way Todd approached drawing Spider-Man. He like you said he wasn't really concerned about the anatomy being correct. He really wanted to get you that into the right feeling and vibe of the character. So, nope. But that's a beauty, and the fact that so these are these eBay purchases, or were you actually buying from the CVG or at that point?
Yeah, it's hard to remember. I have to go look it up. Sometimes I would get 2 pages of kind of a normal Spidey and have to trade for a black. I think the 300 was from a trade with Matt Ellis, where he kind of got 3 pages out of me for one. And he was good. So then I would see him like trade the pages I had traded up, and then he would get a cover, and then he would go and then he traded up to like some Bisley thing, and then he started to do Franzetta stuff. So he kind of climbed the ladder way fast. It must have been a full-time job. This guy, he was like spending literally 80 hours a week working on these 4-level combination trades and stuff. But it added value to me because he did all the work, and I would just benefit from the fruit. But it was always sad to see my pages go.
Right. Oh, heck yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Well,
yeah.
I mean, Matt has, he's been around a while, and I always admire people who can work the trades out that way and move things in that manner. I've never been good at those sorts of deals, and so it's back to that introvert in me. I can't go out and ask for things that I think should work or could work. So I admire the people that have no fear to go out and ask for 3 pages for this one and pull those things together.
Yeah, I've never had time. I hate shipping stuff too. So I never sell anything because I don't want to ship anything. It's like a total drag.
Well, yeah, that's one way to avoid selling anything.
Yeah. This is probably if I had to pick, this is one of my favorite pages. So this is the title page, very early Venom here, and this is kind of the classic dead meat. So just kind of the how Venom comes out of the dark, and then the way Todd draws people is hilarious. So this kind of like chubby trucker guy is about to get eaten by Venom. So the perspective on this one is really cool. It's hard to tell from the scan, but he's kind of coming out of a subway or like a pipe or something.
Yeah.
And then just the way he kind of wrote dead meat, kind of classic Todd father.
And framed.
Yeah. This one came to me framed. This is like maybe a little thing for the audience. I'm kind of scared. Like I worry that maybe the art's touching the glass, and I don't know if it is. I don't know what to do about it. So I've just kind of left it in there. I don't know I'm kind of in a chicken and egg situation. They did unfortunately clip around the edges, you can tell. But this is kind of what was available. It is what it is.
Yeah. Well, it might be something you might want to have looked at, right? I mean, at the end of the day.
Yeah. Maybe one of those restorers could open it and let me know what's going on.
Right. It wouldn't be one I'd want to do myself, though.
Yeah. All right. So to mix it up a little bit, I have, the other thing that started happening in the last 3 or 4 years is the pages are so scarce and so expensive that I've started to kind of expand into some other things. So I've been scratching my Star Wars comic itch, and this was a fun page that I picked up. I'm a huge fan of the Cantina scene. It's funny. I've been to like Star Wars Celebration and some of those things. And there's literally like, a day of panels around the Cantina scene where people dissect every frame. And it was actually shot in 2 locations. And there's a dude that's recreated all the costumes and stuff. So it's just kind of fascinating this was a fun page. It has Bosk in it. I got this on eBay, and then literally after I sold it, I had 4 people want to buy it from me for like 3 times what I paid for it, which I don't understand like why they didn't bid, but that was weird. The detail here of I like the character Bosk. He's in the upper right up there, but he's one of the bounty hunters along with Boba Fett and IG-88 and those guys in that classic scene where the Darth Vader hires them to find Han Solo.
Right. Wow. Well, yeah, it's funny. I've gotten that a few times, and I know it happens a lot where guys just miss that. They don't, they see it on CAF, they miss the auction, and that's when they want it. But I could see why you wouldn't want to trade this one at all or get rid of it. It's beautiful.
Yeah. The eBay people this one guy was like really insane. He's like, no, I really need this because I'm doing this thing and I need this Bosk art. And I was like, I'll send you a scan, but I'm not going to send you the page. And he's like, got very huffy. It's hard to draw, it's hard to find good art. I imagine it's hard to draw Chewbacca. I have no art skills, but the Chewie in here is really good, and kind of like the panel 2 there, and then it's hard not to make him look like a walking carpet. So then at the bottom right is a good one. The bottom 2 panels is good. So it's a good Chewie there.
Oh, definitely. And somebody did mention up above that you don't want to have your art touching the glass. So maybe
I know that, but yeah.
Yeah,
I figured it already has the horses out of the barn. What do I do?
Well, yeah, you're gonna have to take it somewhere. Mikhail said he would help you though.
Yeah, he also said he wanted it for free. I think so. We'll see. Those two statements together don't build trust.
No. Oh man. All right, Gen 13 cover.
Yeah, so part of the reason I like McFarlane is he's a fellow entrepreneur. So I think at the height of his career at Marvel, he and Jim Lee and all those guys left to start Image. So I've always had an affinity for the Image guys, and collected all the most of the comics from that era. Mm-hmm. And I really loved the Gen 13 series. And I have a bunch of pages, but I could never find a cover. Glenn had this one, and I think part of this is COVID mania as well, where there's a lot of research that shows people got kind of nostalgic during COVID, and I was part of that too. This guy came available, and I had to grab it because I've always wanted, one of the covers from Gen 13 that had the team on there. So this is a good one. David, I forget his last name. This is number 0. He has number 1. And I don't think he's going to let go of that any day soon.
No, these are really, really hard to come by.
Even the pages are hard to come by.
Yeah, no, you almost never see them on the market. But wow.
Yeah. So J. Scott Campbell, and then it's kind of. I also like it when they have fun with kind of breaking the rules and messing with the logo there. Mm-hmm. It kind of is a thumb to Marvel in a way, saying, "Hey, look, we're out on our own. We can do whatever the heck we want. And your dumb rules are not for us." So. Yeah, so the fact the Image guys did all that, huge respect for them, and I think it worked out really well for them.
Oh yeah, well yeah, and Dave Kopecki is
Kopecki, that's the name, yeah.
Right, I was trying to remember who I'd spoken to who owned the issue 1 cover, but yeah, it was Dave.
Yeah, it's Dave. Yeah, Dave's he's another one of those aggressive trader guys that I have mad respect for.
Oh yeah, no, when I interviewed him, I think 3 or 4 months ago, and yeah, he talked a lot about trading, and again, that's just for me. I can't do it, but I respect everybody who can. It's just not for me.
Yeah, another thing I've learned after doing this 30 years is you kind of have to go without regrets. I knew that if I didn't get that Gen 13 page, I would regret it. So I splurged.
Well, that's a big thing, anymore that, and I never really lived by that mantra, but I think I might have to if I ever want to own good things. Is that, when you see it, that might be your, you think you might be able to get another one a year from now, but that's not really true anymore. If the piece is there that you want, you probably want to go all in if you if you don't want to regret it later on. So, yeah.
And then I have to look at when this book came out. But I got this one. I didn't write it in the title. So, again, this one's actually pretty old. I think I've had this for about 10 years, if I recall. So Larson. So it went McFarlane, Larson, and I think Bagley. There may be someone in the middle there. I can't remember. But at first, I kind of like, being such a McFarlane fan, I didn't like the Bagley style. But then when he started to draw Venom, he kind of morphed to kind of find his own Spidey, if you will. And I really love the sequence of the storytelling too. So, his Venom is pretty muscular and a little bit of a crazy tongue there. And then I'm also a sucker for ripped Spider-Man outfits. So kind of that classic movie scene where Maguire's got,
Oh yeah.
he gets in number 3. It kind of speaks, lets you know there's a human under there, and he can be hurt. And then this panel too, there's this, Bagley does I really like his side profile of Spidey. He does kind of this accentuated eye and profile. McFarlane did kind of wacky profiles too, like with a big chin. And then I think Bagley, to get his own style, almost like, tilted the chin in and put his nose out more. But to me, that's like a classic Bagley Spidey there that you see. And then, more storytelling. Venom's really just destroying Spidey here, smashes his face in, about to bite him. And then, this dude comes to the rescue.
Yes, he did. Yeah, that's a beautiful page. Love I love the inks on that. And that's what I always appreciated about the run of the book, was just everything was so crisp, concise. And I too liked the way he drew both Venom and Spidey, as do a lot of people today. I mean, we've been seeing the Bagley, this market just going through the roof.
Yeah. I didn't get any. I really liked Bagley's run on Ultimate Spider-Man. I thought that was fun. So I got. I picked up. Those were super cheap. Like, I think he had his own website and he was just selling them. I forget when that came out. Just literally, like, I think I have 1, 3, 4, 5, 6. I think I have 5 or 6 of those covers. They're just pencils, but they're really tight pencils. And what's interesting is that was the early. He was like one of the first guys to start doing some digital stuff on that Ultimate title. So he doesn't have inks, but all you have is those pencils. And then I think he only penciled the cover. So it's really hard to find that Bagley Ultimate Spider-Man art. So I have some of that I like.
Very cool.
Back to McFarlane. You can't talk about comic book art without going. This one, I love McFarlane's Hulk. He like the changes of style. He has kind of like that gray lumpy Hulk. And then he changed the style. And this, I love the storytelling on this page. These bad guys are like, hey, who's on the rocket? This rocket is coming to them. And they're like, oh crap, it's Hulk. And then you know that he's on this ship. You know that it's going to be a bad day for them when they zoom in on his face. And he's kind of like, I'm coming to smash you, evil space dudes. So I just like the top frame of that one, how he zooms in on Hulk. I think is kind of it's a good storytelling element that I like.
No, that's a nice page. So again, most of these pieces you're picking up in the 90s, early 2000s. I mean, is it?
Yeah, I've had this. May be one of the first pages I got. This one I've had for a very long time.
Wow. Well, you were definitely picking them up at the right time.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, I had the opportunity to buy covers along the way, and economically that was a bad decision. But I've always preferred the storytelling in the panel pages to covers. If I would take a cover if someone gave it to me, but I don't know. It's kind of a weird thing. Economically, I should have bought all the covers I could get my hands on in hindsight, but who knew?
Yeah.
McFarlane, if you start tracking the data, and I'd be interested in Dino says about this, usually a cover will go for 3 to 4x a panel page and 2 times a splash or something like that. But McFarlane, the gap has gotten crazy where, these covers are going for, you've seen the numbers, like $400,000, $500,000, $600,000. So they, the scarcity value there really took off in a way I wouldn't have been able to predict.
No,
Dinesh, you got Dinesh, the guy that owns Comic Connect, and then that JL dude. You've got some really heavy hitters buying these things at this point.
Yeah. No. Well, that's why we're getting the prices that we're getting at the end of the day, because of that. But you're right. There is a great disparity between his covers and his interiors, unlike any other artist on title work that I can think of anyway to compare it to. But
yeah, this September is interesting because there's more McFarlane pages coming out than I can kind of remember. Probably in the last 4 or 5 years. I have to go look at the data, but I'm pretty sure that's true. So it's gonna be interesting to see what happens there. There's a cover. There's a really nice, amazing splash. There's a panel page, and then there's a Superman page, and then I have to go back and look. But Comic Link has like 4 or 5, and then there's another one. I think Heritage has a page or 2. It's gonna be crazy.
Right.
A really interesting fall for comics.
Right. So in Comic Link's upcoming featured auction, right? That's
yeah.
I've
I
seen
think it
those
closes
in there.
in September. Yeah.
Yeah. No. Yeah. Well, it'll be interesting to see. If I think the prices will remain solid. From what I'm hearing and just people I talk to, I don't see us really slowing down in any way as far as the prices leveling off.
Yeah, and it's just not, I focus on one thing, but there's like some killer Jim Lee stuff coming out. There's, it's going to be an epic fall for collectors.
I agree. Well, I'll be sitting. I'm doing that market or the watch party tomorrow night for just an average auction. I should do these on some of the bigger auctions just for the fun of it, because I probably would have to limit who we can bring in there because so many people will be bidding on them. But I think it'd be a lot more fun. To do it on something bigger. I don't know if Heritage would let me do that or not, but I'll have to ask.
Yeah. I think it's going to be a really big data point for the industry, and I'm excited to see how things come out.
Well, back in the day, you figure you were collecting around the time when Berkey was getting going as well, and his motto was always he'd rather, for the number of interiors he could have per cover, he was like, I'll buy all the interiors and the splashes, because that
same
for him, the investment wise, he just felt like he'd rather have more and than just that one prime, great example.
Yeah, they've always been out of my range. So when I had 1,000, they were like 5, and then when I had 5, they were like 15. So they've always been like one step ahead of where I can go.
There goes. Michaela has a question for you. Why are the Hulk pages in relatively poor shape?
Oh, that's a good question.
I can't say that I've really seen. I've never actually held one, but it's true.
They're more cut up. I bet it's just a production thing. I would imagine. I don't know. Maybe Amazing just has. Maybe they knew the art was worth more, or they treated it nicer because the Amazing people were clearly talent at that point, and then maybe when they were on the lesser books, they weren't as considered as valuable. I don't know. It's a good question.
And Stanley had a question too. You may or may not be able to answer. Does McFarlane still own a lot of his artwork?
This is so there is a lot of lore that he has a bunch of pages. I remember going to New York on a business trip and stumbling upon an exhibit. It may have been at that comic art. You had that guy that you interviewed. It may have been there. And it was kind of down in the Village. And I went to it, and it was a McFarlane exhibit. And I was shocked. I just, it was totally unadvertised. And I happened to go to it, and it was McFarlane. And I remember seeing pages there that I knew had never come out that were from his personal collection. So he does. I do believe he has a fair amount of that. Other books, there's rumors like Spider-Man 1 of where that is. We know where 299 is and 300, 298. Yeah. So it's interesting. There's all these people that we trade information behind the scenes about what we know and where pages are and when they may or may not come up.
Right.
Like that splash that's on Comic Link. I've never seen that page in 30 years. Obviously I know it exists because I can look in the comic and see it, but I have a tracker, and that's the first time that page has ever come out. I have no idea where that's been for 30 years.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, that's the fun part of the hobby,
because
I'll talk with, a couple, with dealers and everything. And certain pieces, they can trace the history of something, or they know where this thing is and they've been waiting for it to come to market. But it's always fun when something like that happens, where
this is why it's more fun than comics. You can always go buy an Amazing Fantasy 5.0 if you have now $200,000 or whatever. There's infinite availability on comics if you have money, but there's a much more fun. There's more of an Indiana Jones element to this hobby than the comics side.
Oh yeah, without question.
Yeah.
But Samuel, the answers are, were written on there as well. But yeah, when somebody in the old days, well, there's a period of time where they actually taped them down as part of the process of, I guess, photographing and printing the book. And so rather than try to peel the tape off, they just came in there with a knife and would cut those 4 corners sometimes. And that's why you get the cut corners on pieces of artwork from that period.
Yeah.
All right, let's see here. Get this next one on the screen. Well,
Here's
wow. Here, let's.
Yeah. So this is our. It's our.
Did you want to show something versus this, or?
Let's just do this. This is
okay.
So then, again, during kind of a dry period, I love Frank Miller. His art has always been like a step above what I could afford. And then I forget the story on this. I found this Daredevil page, and I decided to, take a little bit of a stretch on it because I loved the storytelling, and it had Daredevil, and it's Frank Miller, and I figured I have to have at least one Miller page. So, you've got Daredevil up there at the top, threatening to punch this guy, and then let's see, panel 1, 2, 3, 4, and then in the middle of the page, you get this close up of Daredevil's eyes and his mouth. Just kind of classic Frank Miller storytelling there that I like.
No, that's a great one. Yeah, back when I could actually afford to buy Frank Miller Daredevil, I always passed and would pick up like a John Byrne X-Men page, and that back then it would be, the Byrne page would be around 5,000, and the Miller would always be around 2,500, 2,800, and I always thought, well, I could own 2 Millers to each Byrne that I could buy, and I'm like, I'm still going to buy the John Byrnes. I regret that to this day. I would have loved to have. I've never owned a piece by Frank from his the Daredevil run, and I regret it to this day.
I've never really owned a X-Men page, which is weird because I love the X-Men story, especially the Dark Phoenix kind of, that same part that you probably like.
Oh yeah.
And I don't know why. I guess I just have never really found kind of the killer page that I wanted. Now that's just the ship has sailed, and I'll probably never be able to get something in that category.
Yeah. No, the closest I got to, I had a page from 135. So that was a joy to have for the limited time that I had it. But yeah,
I was going to show for the commenter there. This is the page where, sorry for the glare. This is the page where Spider-Man's kind of got his crazy legs. Some of the paste up has come loose here. That's another thing is like, how do I repaste that? But look at the top of this one. It's like really chunked out here where they needed to know the page number, so they left it and then they cut it across. I imagine it was on a board and they just like slice it with an X-Acto. Something like that.
Yeah, Nick is a big Daredevil fan, so he says that doesn't fit your collection, Scott. If you ever want to sell,
I get that a lot.
Yeah,
a lot of the CAF people come at me with that angle, but it's my only Miller. Since then, I bought a Sin City, so I think it'd be fun to have a Miller from kind of each book of his career.
Now, is that in your CAF? I guess I missed the Sin City piece. I'll have to go back and look.
It is, yeah.
All right. That'll give me something to do later on this evening. All right, cool. Let's see here. Another McFarlane piece.
Yep. The Spawn art is hard to find, and I think someone probably knows this better than I do. The Spawn's almost all digital now, I think. So there's not a lot of pencil and inks. This was for a cover for a magazine. I have it in my CAF. I have the long description of it, but there's not a lot of McFarlane Spawns out there. And a lot of times he'll just do kind of inks and some touch-up work. So what's nice about this piece is the chains. So you gotta, if you have a good Spawn page, you gotta have kind of, you want a shoelace kind of head, kind of a Spawn kind of thing, and then the chains, and then a cool cape. So this one checked all those boxes for me.
Wow, well, that's a nice one.
Yeah, what's really fun, and I mentioned this in the collector thing, is when you collect an artist. So I can go back to some of those Infinity Ink pages, and he's been playing with chains for the chains are kind of the web. Chains are to Spawn as web is to Spider-Man, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he's been playing with that ever from very, very early Infinity Ink books, and the cape. Like even some of his cool, he had a little stint on Detective Comics where he drew Batman, and he'd always do Batman's cape with like kind of these crazy little, edges and stuff that he's kind of built up into Spawn, which is neat to see it all come together there.
Yeah. Well,
the other thing you can see, I should have shown this, is you can see him. You guys see this a lot, but he's always working out stuff on the back of pages. So this is the back of that page I showed you earlier. And this looks like, so this is some big dude that he's kind of working out the anatomy of that he wants to get in a hand where he's working out that. Yeah, $140. Ouch.
No, you didn't get it for $140 though, right?
No.
If only you could have been first on that, right?
Yeah, it's hard to decide if you had a time machine. Would you go by Bitcoin, Apple stock, or all the pages of someone that you love? It's a tough decision.
It is. Well,
we'll save that for beers at a...
Yeah. Right. My wife always pats herself on the back. Okay. Maureen always pats herself on the back because when my son was born, she bought him Apple stock and it was going to be used for college. And we haven't touched it, and she didn't really buy that much. But it's basically it's six figures, and we didn't put $2,000 into it. So one of those things that we're looking at, and we're like, what are we going to use this for? Because he's finished college now, and we didn't have to touch it. So we're just thinking, yeah, just let it ride for a while. Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. I mean, when he's ready, that you're right. He doesn't need it for anything. I'm not gonna have him take it out to buy a car or something. At least not right now. So
Lamborghini.
A Lamborghini. I don't know if he's that ambitious. I'll tell you, he is the slowest driver on the planet. So he is someone who would not gain any of the benefits of owning a Lamborghini whatsoever.
Yeah. Good.
All right, let's see. Let me get another piece of art here on the screen. Oh, I have a piece of art by Mannix.
Ah, yeah. So this is a debut. So I think I discovered him the same time you did because Comic Art Live, the trade show, not the channel we're on. Super confusing. We'll have to have another beer session to talk about branding.
Yeah. Sorry.
Anyway, so I stumbled across his art, and there was a Spider-Man, and it got bought. I don't know if that was the one you got or not. So then I got a Doctor Strange page from Mannix, and really loved kind of the intersection of kind of a surrealist and a comic hero kind of embedded in the middle. Mm-hmm. So I'd never done a commission before, but when I got the Doctor Strange, I was like, I love this. And I'm not a Doctor Strange fan. I really wish I had a Spider-Man, kind of themed piece of art from Mannix. So did a commission of Venom. So it's really cool. You've got Venom in there. You can see he's holding a little web. And then if you zoom in on him, you can see his little crazy tongue inside of there. And then kind of the black uniform. I don't know what the black lines are. They're kind of like a web he's inside of, but there's little Venom inside of there.
Yeah, that's nice. I remember the Doctor Strange because I did not. The one I got was the Wolverine.
That was a nice one too.
But the Doctor Strange one was fantastic with just the architecture structures that built around them. I thought was really nice, and you can pick up stuff from Mannix over on nextcomicart.com.
Yeah, it's very affordable. People always complain that there's no affordable art, and I found this to be affordable, unique. And then, what's the paper he's drawing on? It's really is that some?
It is like a heavy watercolor board. Yeah,
Okay.
It's I wish
it's really cool.
Should have thought about pulling it out, but yeah, no, it is very unique, and I was impressed by his style too. It just kind of came out of nowhere. I think that was when they debuted his work was at at our show in May. So yep, good one. And that was one thing. Yeah, I know we're going to show a few pieces here, but I thought the really neat thing, Scott, is that with your collection, you were very focused on McFarlane. But a lot of your recent pickups are very modern artists, and so I can tell that you've got a great eye, and you're not just focused, or you're not solely focused on the 90s art or whatnot. You really look to some of the guys who are considered like the modern masters out today, and you've been picking up and adding a lot of those creators to your collection.
Yeah, and I've been doing it for longer than it seems. I just haven't been able to kind of put them on CAF as quickly as I'd like to because it takes a lot of time.
Right.
Time is my enemy generally every day. I'm sure you feel the same way doing all that you do.
Yeah, nope, haven't gotten up from my computer since about 7 a.m. So yes, I know how that feels.
Yeah.
But but I wanted to tell you that because I don't see that a lot with people who collect, say 70s or 80s art. They kind of stick in their sweet spot as collectors and don't branch out a lot more to the current creators. And so that was something that always struck me about going into your CAF gallery periodically, was just always seeing something new, something modern. And I just thought that was cool because it's not, for me, it's not the norm. At least I don't notice it. Like when I go to your CAF gallery, I notice when you pick up, something from Felix's guys or something. It brings a smile to my face because it's not something I'm used to seeing.
Yeah, I think being in technology, you have to always be trying something new, and staying up on current trends. And so I try not to be stuck on the past on anything. I'm always listening to new music but I have an appreciation for the old stuff too. So it's fun to span generations on these things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I think the next page you were going to show, was that the Stegman? Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So huge fan of Ryan Stegman. And then this is, so I did he has a process where he does blue lines, and then I don't know who inked this, inks on top. But you can look at this and say, I wonder who his influence is, right? So it feels very McFarlane. So you've got chains, and I think he's starting a new independent company. It's called Kids Love Chains, because I think he heard Todd McFarlane say that's why someone said, why does Spawn have chains? And I think McFarlane said, yeah, he just has chains. Kids love chains. So here Stegman does a lot of cool stuff with rain and backgrounds, and another good perspective here with the buildings, and just kind of the way he's drawn Venom, kind of crazy muscular, all wrapped in chains, is really cool. So this is from Venom 200. It's one of the last splash. I think it's like page 47. JP Mayer, thanks. I always rely, if I can't figure out the inker and I'm listening, I'll just say, can someone help? And Marcus will tell me who it is. He's a super, super big helper on helping me figure out who does everything.
Well, Marcus is the top commenter on this channel and on Comic Art Fans. I can tell you that.
Yeah. He needs to, I would hire him to help me write my descriptions. He needs to freelance on that.
Well, it is very well. Knowledge and creativity are two things that that most people don't have really well defined, and Marcus has them both in spades. That's for sure. Yeah. I think somebody said once that we should get Marcus on one of the Sunday collector shows and just talk about his approach to commenting on artwork, because that would be interesting to hear. I
would love that. I always want to take his comment and make it my description, but then I feel like I'd be stealing his copyright, his content. This has bricks too. I'll point out there's some bricks on this page.
Yes, there are. Let's see over on the inked version too. Yeah, that's beautiful.
Yeah. A lot of the modern artists, the pages, you can tell they're doing more kind of what I would call mixed media. That may not be the right name for it, but this one feels like it was cut with a razor when you touch the page, and it's been flung with ink and white out in certain areas, and it has like more of a texture you can feel when you get the art, which is kind of a cool thing about modern. We'll see another example of that here in a bit.
All right, let's see. Well,
and then I've been I heard you say that you liked ROM pages. I've been really enjoying some. You can the price is going up, but you can get a Buscema page for under $2,000 and sometimes under $1,000 if you kind of poke around. I've been able to find some in Europe for really good prices. And I don't know, I picked this page up like 3 months ago and found it just really satisfying, kind of like this nostalgic. I also, in addition to having the whole run of Amazing, not the whole, but from 100 on, I got like Spectacular 1 on too, and I always enjoyed the storytelling there as well. It was a good compliment to Amazing. So this is kind of a cool page of just a good story page of Spider-Man and getting gassed here and falling asleep on a diving board.
Just
looks
because
like a public swimming pool.
Right. Drained, fortunately for Spidey, apparently. But yeah, no, I hope to. I've actually, I may be picking up a ROM Buscema page. So maybe in my future, at least in the next few weeks. I'm trying to work something out.
Berkey has some squirreled away.
If I could find him, that's kind of the problem. He's told me that he's like, I think they're over there, but it's
points to birdie bins. Yeah.
Exactly. So it's a question of figuring out which bin they're in. But that's where the lead is at this point. He's like, I know I've got something, Bill, that you probably want. You just have to dig around and find it. And I haven't. I'll be going over his place this week before Saturday to pick up the art so I can do the show. But so maybe I'll try to find it then.
Yeah, I have some Nova pages from that period I like too. So those are Infantino. So I really like Infantino did a run on Star Wars as well. So I like his stuff.
Yeah, that's a nice one. Oh.
This will be fun. Let's see if people can guess. I guess you showed the.
Oh, sorry.
That's all right. And it may be in the title. I actually tend to put that up there. So this is Scotty Young, and I have a fair number of kind of the fun little cartoony Scotty Youngs. But this was a cover to Marvel Adventures, and I just really liked the dynamicism of this. It's got kind of Clark Kent vibes, but in a Spidey kind of a way. So he's running. You can tell he's definitely kind of running, and he's kind of opening up. Something's obviously going on that he's having to get into his Spidey outfit. And then I loved the mask kind of hanging out of his pocket and waving in the wind behind him as he's running to, find a corner to duck behind to change into Spidey.
Wow. Yeah, I love Scotty's work. This is a beautiful piece. And you're right. That's funny. That's kind of how Scotty, I think, approaches his art. He's always looking for the fun in whatever he's working on. So that's wow. Yep. Everyone likes that as well. Yep. But Tommy Sarah says he wouldn't have guessed that it was Scotty.
Yeah.
And let's see. Oh. Now this one you had a couple scans for this one, I believe, right?
I was just going to show you the back. So this is a Harley Quinn. I'm not a huge DC guy, but I really like Riley Rossmo, and he's been doing a run on Harley Quinn that's been I've really been enjoying. He has a certain energy and cartoonishness to his characters that's a lot of fun, and then his layouts are awesome. And I really enjoy his stuff. Felix is one of the folks I go to find new art, but there's a lot of really good new art amongst many of the CAF advertisers. So another service you do is by surfacing up all these, like the Cadence guys and the Inky Knuckles and all these things. Really enjoy finding them. And then one of the fun things about getting one of these pages is if you look at the back, he's always working out like anatomy and little vehicles and stuff. So it's almost like getting 2 pages for free. This is the back of that page. So there's I guess it came out upside down. But you can get the gist of it. It's fine. You can see there's like a cool little van, and he's always kind of working on there's a Harley it's probably working on her eye and hair and how that's going to work there. This is the fun of comic art, right? You can kind of see the process. There's a little dog of some kind, and he's got kind of like 3 positions of the dog. And then sometimes these things, they'll pop up 3 pages later. It's kind of a fun hide and seek kind of game to find these little artifacts of the art coming out, and then see where they surface. There's a tank in there.
Yeah, very cool. Well, that's always the bonus when you're picking up vintage art, and you get a sketch on the back that you just wouldn't expect, and sometimes the sellers don't even bother to show it. It's a shame, but then you get it and you're thrilled to have extra artwork.
Yeah, I got a McFarlane page and it almost had a full splash, worked out on the back. I think it was one of the Hulk pages that had he was working on a splash as kind of the next page. Nice little benefit to some of those.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's Well, and you mentioned Inky Knuckles. Cam represents a lot of great artists, and I'm always impressed by anybody new he picks up and every update he makes. Because I bought a few pieces from him over the last year as well, and I was happy when he became an advertiser because I love finding, I love when his site came out and just seeing the first few artists that he represented. And then, I don't know, we're in such a really unique time with so many new reps always kind of coming out and just discovering new artists, like with Next Comic Art and discovering Mannix. I mean, we wouldn't have had the opportunity to see that before.
Yeah. I like when they have true e-commerce where you actually buy the page and you're not submitting a request, because you never know. You submit the request and you're like, I wonder if I'm going to get this page or not. Because, there is a fair number of times where people are like, oh, sorry, it's already gone.
Well, you can blame me for that, right?
I do.
Yeah. Well,
I'm sure you give them the option, and then they probably want to, I don't know, maybe they have bad inventory systems or something. That would be my guess.
Well, that is a very big part of it. I can tell you that, because how do we work it out? Early on, the dealers didn't want real e-commerce because they felt that it was in some ways it was better to have more than one request for the artwork, because if somebody backed out, they had a fallback. So so before they put it on hold, they might actually get 2 or 3 requests on a piece. And then yeah, as time went on, a lot of them didn't want it because they didn't have a real way of tracking what was in inventory or not. Like even on Anthony finally did get a real checkout on his site, but we had to modify the programming that had an in-stock flag, so that he actually had to go back. So anything new he was adding, he would check in stock, right? But he had to actually go back through 15 or 18,000 pieces of artwork to double check, because if he still had it. And yeah, it was a big, so it was easy for us to program it, but it was a big undertaking for him to go back. And I don't think he has, because I inquired about a piece 3 or 4 months ago that had been on his site for a while, and he was like, you found one that isn't in stock. So yeah, so that's a very big problem, and I wish I could convince more people to go with a real e-commerce solution. Definitely.
At least they have prices. There's some people that don't have prices. That's always frustrating.
Yeah, that's out there as well. We all know who they are, and I hope to one day work that out, because I've been approached about doing a redesign and some stuff with them, and so one of my goals as part of doing that will be to ask them to kind of go through and try to price, or at the very least, let's clean out things that they no longer own and that sort of thing, because it clutters up everything for everybody. And a lot of the guys like to leave stuff out because it helps generate leads. Oh yeah, well, I can't find that one, but I've got this one over here, and they all do that. I mean, that's why they leave sold stuff out too. So yeah, yep,
we're counting on you.
I'm trying. It may be a losing battle, but I would like to do that. I think the hobby would be a much better place, and I believe that the way we do searches through CAF would be a lot more fruitful, and it would make things cleaner. I think I could do a lot more dynamic kind of things through CAF if the dealers had more accurate inventories and real-time checkouts. I mean, you can put the checkout right on CAF. I mean, there's ways, and since I'm working with them, we could work those sorts of things right into the site. You never have to leave CAF. So no, I have a lot of ideas, but it's just trying to get everyone to conform to what I see as a good future one day for the hobby. So we'll see. I'm moving some of them along slowly.
Yeah. I like the redesign you've done where you can filter out stuff that's sold, and those are all good additions. Yeah. That was a big one. And that, yeah, I mean, but I did it on, I won't even say, I did it on one other person's site, and now they want me to make it where it defaults to showing everything. Like I wanted it to, for me as a collector, I wanted the default view to only be stuff that's for sale, right? But then they were like, well, but then there's not a lot of stuff on my page. If you go to Sal Buscema or something like that, there's only 3 pieces. I want it defaulted to all, so I can see all 15 that I have on there, even though only 3 of them are available for sale. So it's still kind of a losing battle, but I'm trying. I am trying. Keep fighting the fight. If they need any proof points, we could give them a feedback session sometime. Yeah, no, I agree. Well, that was the big thing with just adding those things in there. I told them, I mean, now that to have those filters, I guarantee you'll sell more,
because people can find what's actually for sale. I mean, it's such a challenge to go to some of the sites and not have those filters in there. So I'm definitely going to roll those filters changes down to everybody that I work with, because just as a buyer, for me, as myself looking at artwork on a dealer site, I wanted them. And so that's something that'll eventually make it down to everybody.
Yeah, a lot of Felix pages, you have to search for $, and you go like through 6 pages before you find something with a price.
Yes, yeah. Well, we just ran into Felix. He does. There was we had written some code, and it was smart code. The guy who Maureen didn't write it. Chris, who doesn't work for me, he wrote it. Was that on the homepage of everybody's site? Actually, if we had a section that showed some random artworks that were for sale, but it was pulling from artwork that was for sale in the last 2 months, because we wanted to show current artwork, and not stuff that had been on the site for a couple of years. And when we were working with guys like Mike and Albert or whatnot, that wasn't a big concern, because there was just always new stuff available that was for sale. Well, Felix actually hit a point where he had sold so much that he didn't have 4 pieces of art that were for sale on his site from art that he'd added in 2 months, and it broke the homepage. Because we just never had encountered a scenario like that before. And I showed it to Maureen, and she's like, well, duh, it's written like this. I'm like, well, I get so you just never know. Sometimes
it's a high class problem.
It is. It really is. So this is a beauty right here.
Yeah, so as a kid, loved Godzilla and all the monsters and Mothra and all that stuff, and really been enjoying the Ultra Mega series by James Herron. So his storytelling, and then he's the one where the texture of the pages, like, I don't know what he's doing, but it's pretty crazy. Like, zoom in on the bottom there, and you'll see like there's tons of whiteout and just scratches on the page. The page feels really dense. It's got like a lot of buildup of ink and whatever he's doing to create that effect. It's pretty cool. You would know better than I am. I have no artistic skills, but there's whiteout and scratching, and you look at it and it looks kind of chaotic, but then when you pull back out, it just puts so much energy on the page. It's crazy. And then on top of that, I love his storytelling. So here our hero is kind of falling out of the sky. He's small, and then he becomes giant in this story. No spoilers. So he's giant, and we're like, yes, he's here to save the day. There's all these monsters running around. And then I kind of put the companion piece here because I wanted to kind of show the storytelling. And then we pull back a little bit, and you can see, yes, our hero has grown to be, a huge, like 20 times his size. But guess what? The monsters are bigger. And just the monsters he draws are just kind of fun and reminiscent of kind of schlock sci-fi movies. And again, just like look at how they're destroying the buildings. The artwork goes frame to frame, side to side, and just there's a centipede one there. There's one with kind of like a dinosaur type thing and a worm mouth that's coming in from the other building, and then like a hammerhead sharky thing over there. And then the reaction scene at the bottom is kind of like a gulp kind of a situation.
This is James Herron at his best. I mean, I have not read the book yet. I've seen a lot of the art, and man, he's really killing it on this. I just love everything on it, and that's like Zipatone, I guess, in the buildings there, and right in through there. Yeah, it's just amazing. I love it. I love everything that he's doing on these pages. The craft is just amazing.
Yeah, so I'm really in. So if I had to choose, he's probably one of my favorite. He and Stegman, I really enjoy what they're doing. They're doing a good job, and
right.
Those are two.
And I was going to ask the same question, and then I see Bootlegging says the biggest question is how you were quick enough to snag consecutive pages. You got very lucky. That's
yes.
Yeah, no. It's I always dread a Felix art drop, to be honest, because I can always watch I can hop on the SQL server and just watch the the CPU ripple while his art drops happen, especially during his the San Diego thing. I would watch this because the new server doesn't even really flinch, but I just, as a developer, I really like that aspect of it, just watching how the servers kind of compensate. And and make up for high bursts of traffic like that.
Yeah. I don't have any super secret. I have a very fast internet connection. I'm like gigabit, and then I have very fast computers from my day job. So I think that helps.
Oh, well, congratulations on that, because you don't see that too often. I mean, most people are lucky when they get one piece from any of these.
Yeah. And then I think you skipped over file 9. It may not have. It's a different file format.
Let me see. Well, it might be this viewer here. I'll just pull it out for a second, and I will just hop into the folder.
It was a controversial. It was going to be my cake break.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Oh, it's an MP4 file. Yeah, I can do that. Okay, let me see. Yeah, that's why, because this was just an image viewer. You're right. I saw it and I didn't look at it. I didn't even realize it was an MP4. Here, let me remove that.
So I'm bringing a crazy debut to CAF.
I'm scared, and let's see, where are we at? I apologize. I'm gonna get this into the.
Ladies and gentlemen, are you all sitting down? Hope everyone's sitting down for this.
All right, I apologize. I have to
put a hat on because your head's gonna explode.
All right, it is gonna allow me to share it. So let's see.
Dun dun dun, ladies and gentlemen, the first NFT on Comic Art Fan Live.
OMG.
So I've been dabbling in NFTs, and I don't want to get into the pros and cons of it. But this is an artist, and he does these. They're called chunkies. So he takes various pop culture figures and makes them chunky. It's just kind of like a fun thing. But he also pairs it with a digital frame.
Really?
So the NFT is married to this digital frame, and it just it's a lot of fun. It's a good conversation piece. It just kind of sits on my desk and does this. And the digital NFT, it's a limited to 200, and I have 120. And the physical is married to it as well. So yeah, so NFTs are fun. You can't do this with original comic book art. You can't move, folks.
No, that is very true.
The thing I do like about NFTs is the way the programming works. There's a little contract baked into the NFT, and the artist gets a percentage of the subsequent sales, not just the first one. So I like that about NFTs. That's why I've been supporting them.
No, well, I haven't seen them presented in that way before. I mean, that's actually,
yeah. You can buy frames. Like a lot of people will buy. You can get cheap LED displays, and then they'll have NFTs cycle through. This one's just kind of a one married in, and it's branded and signed by the artist on the back as part of the whole shtick. So
is that Nick was curious, and you don't have to divulge it if you want to. What something like that went for?
This was like $200. It was very, and that included the digital NFT and the frame.
Oh, that's not bad.
Now, if you get frustrated by Felix's drops, the NFT world, most of these things are drops, and it's 10x crazier than Felix drops. So you have to. It's very hard to. If you're interested in learning more, probably one of the best sites to kind of experiment with is called Nifty Gateway, NIFTY Gateway. They have a lot of these cool. They call them twins, where there'll be a digital thing married to a physical. There's one artist that does shoes. There's another one that does like toys. So you'll get an NFT of an animated toy, and then they'll actually get a real toy. So yeah, and I found a lot of it is quite reasonable. There is some stuff. I bought an early NFT from this artist I liked, and it went up 1,000x in 2 months, and I was like. I was freaking out about it, and then I sold it, and then it went up another 5x, and then he ended up being in Christie's and doing an exhibit there and doing like a $4 million exhibit at Christie's. Physical paintings married with NFTs. So the NFT world is a little scary, and it's kind of like our world on a what's so politically correct, kind of on steroids, I guess I would say. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And what was the name of the artist on that one?
The artist is Alex Solis, SOLIS. Alex, ALEX, Solis.
Okay. No, you're right. That's the first NFT on our show.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thanks. You survived. Everyone survived. I think everyone's going to be okay. I think our viewers went down to 2, so it's just you and me.
Well, the funny thing was most people said they would buy that. I mean, the misconception. Well, see, and that the presentation on that is really nice. I mean, everybody has the notion that it is just a digital file that you're throwing away in a folder on your computer, and it's not exact. While that is true in some cases, people who do collect it. I mean, we don't need to dive too into it, but I actually appreciate that piece there, because I feel like the artist is actually creating something that is physical, even though it's a digital file. They're giving you a way to present it versus having to put an LCD screen on your wall and show your NFTs off that way, which is one way for people to do it. I like that. I appreciate the creativity that went into that piece.
Yeah. The reason I feel like I want to keep an eye on it is more and more of our art is going digital, and all of the art we love is owned by greedy corporations. And what really I think is going to cause this chain reaction is the NBA put out these things called one shots, which are little videos that you can buy and trade. Mm-hmm. And there's been something like $10 million spent on these, and the NBA gets a cut of them as they go on. So if you're Marvel and you've got this page of art out there and you see it go for $1 million at Heritage, you didn't make any money off that because you just made, you gave it to the artist. So I think companies are going to start to realize they have these assets and they're going to monetize them. And I could see Marvel and Disney doing NFTs for digital comic pages down the road. So I think it's going to be interesting in our hobby to keep track of this. So we'll see.
Right. No, I've been wondering and thinking kind of the same thing. I mean, once they figure out all the legal issues and whatnot, I think that both publishers are going to go heavily into it. I mean, Disney already is with their properties, but they haven't done that with Marvel yet. So it's definitely something that's going to influence the future of collecting original art one way or another. So we might as well be exposed to it right now.
So I gave you a little taste, and we all survived. So we can go back to McFarlane art. So I did Bill limited me to 16, but I wanted to throw a bonus in there. Just as kind of a fun. I couldn't not close with a McFarlane piece, being a McSpidey fan.
Right. Well, I appreciate that.
Yeah. So this is a really good story page with Venom as kind of the icing on the cake. So you see Spidey just get the snot knocked out of him up there. So say rock. And then he falls into a is it a water tower? Yeah, no, like a waterway. So kind of like some canal or something. And then if you scroll down, I think he punches a hole in the water tower and it's going to end up blasting Venom. But Venom, I really like this Venom panel. If you can kind of zoom in on that. This is where you see the anatomy kind of all wacky. I don't know if they could ever do their legs that way, but it gives you this feeling of how demented Venom is, and he's saying, "Oh, happy, I'm going to kill Spider-Man," and you can just kind of feel the crazy energy coming off of him, like a demented black Venom clown creature.
Yeah, no, that's a great page, and I guess Mark Warren said that they used to own it and misses it. Loves the Venom grin.
Oh yeah, Mark is one of my big McFarlane fans.
Wow. That's a beautiful
It's in
page.
good hands, Mark.
Wow.
It's in good hands.
And it won't be going anywhere because you don't like the ship.
That is true. Yeah. Pick up only.
There you go. And Nick and Rob both mentioned that Marvel did its first official NFT drop over the weekend, which I guess I missed. So,
I missed that too.
Yeah. I'll have to check that out. But I was always very curious what they what they were going to do, and now I'll have to check it out. Thanks for letting us know.
Yeah.
And is that the last one? Yeah, that was
That's
the 17th one. Oh, I was all set to click on one more. Wow. Well, that's a lot of good art. I mean, maybe we should have saved the NFT for the exact last one, but perfect either way. But so what's next for you? I mean, are you as your entrepreneurial? So did you ever get the Lamborghini? That's a big one.
No, at the ChannelAdvisor IPO, my big present to myself was a Tesla. So I've had a Tesla since 2012. So
all right,
it's it fits better with my brand than a Lamborghini because it's like super geeky. It's electric. I love it. it's basically software on wheels. You guys would love it. So I don't know if you've ever been in one or not, but it's a lot of fun.
I have not. I own a Prius. That's a private, as close as I'll be able to get, but I would love to have a Tesla one day. I really would.
Yeah.
So, well, that's good. So are you done? Is your business creativity over? Or are you always like looking forward at new?
No, the current
ventures?
company. So Spiffy, we're doing on-demand car care. So it's essentially, an app, and you can order. We started with car wash, and now we do oil change and working on tires. So we have, we've raised like about 50 million in venture capital. We're in 20 locations, about 400 folks. So
I went on the site. I actually plugged my zip code in, and you're not in my area yet.
Yeah, sadly we're not.
Yeah.
We're franchising. We're going to do 50 of the larger cities in the United States, and we're starting to franchise. And we're in Cincinnati, and we do have a lot of folks in Columbus we're talking to. So, or not Columbus, but Ohio generally. Mm-hmm. So someday. No. Or sell the mini golf and do a Spiffy franchise.
That's probably not the direction I would go. Well, that's not really brick and mortar. It's not. Yeah, that's not for me. I'm sticking to 100% internet after the mini golf is gone.
I hear you. Yeah.
Yeah. But Alfredo actually wanted to know, what website did you get the Chubby Spidey NFT from?
Yeah, it's.
I know you mentioned it. Nifty.
Yeah, Nifty Gateway. NIFTY Gateway. Yeah, and fun fact, it's owned by the Winklevoss twins, the Winklevi as they call them.
Those, yeah.
They took their settlement from Mark Zuckerberg, and they put it all into crypto, and it made them crypto billionaires. So they own this parent company, and Nifty Gateway is a marketplace inside of there.
Yeah, no, they've done pretty well for themselves after they got that money from Mark. So, yeah. No, that's that's good for some. And hey, I'll just I don't think we're selling the mini golf this year. Looks like it's going to be next year. Sadly, I've got a buyer. I'm getting a little cold feet, and I feel like one more year. So we'll see. I still have until the end of October to make that decision. I really think I want to do it, but I'm a little, one kid in college and one going to be in college. I just keep thinking the little extra money every. At least not knowing where we're going to be a year from now with the economy might be nice to have something that guarantees me a certain amount of money versus a lump sum.
Passive-ish.
Exactly. I'll tell you, well, with doing all these live streams, I almost feel like I never go there. I just go there to maybe, if I need to reorder something, or if Maureen can't go in to pick up the cash that day, I'll drive in and get it. I'm at a point now where I almost don't have to do much there. So it is kind of nice to have, but it would be nice to have it off the books one day.
Yeah, I got into Spiffy by buying some car washes as a diversification and a passive income thing. So I know it well. But when you do get a call, it's a scary one. It's like, someone's broken in, or we think so and so is embezzling or something.
Right. That's always a concern, because you know how that goes. If you've been in that position, so. Yeah, I don't know. I should probably just get rid of it. Somebody really wants it, and I should. Yeah, I don't want to talk about it. I'll probably get out of it by the end of this year. But so that's cool. I mean, but beyond Spiffy though, I mean, do you have any aspirations, beyond that, or do you kind of like really focus on one thing, get it right, and then move on to the next challenge?
Yeah, I focus on one thing, but I still like to follow other technologies. So I do a little, I play around with 3D printing. Drones are interesting to me. AR, VR, I do a lot with that. Mm-hmm. I follow the crypto stuff pretty closely. You've seen the NFTs. Another thing that's kind of neat is there's a 3D world you can go into called Decentraland, and it's built on NFTs, and they sell the land through NFTs and stuff. But a lot of people that buy NFT art, they'll create virtual spaces and they'll hang the art in there. They'll invite people over and have showings. And then if you've ever seen Roblox does this, and so does Minecraft, and then so does Fortnite. They'll do events in these things in this Decentraland. So there's some kind of cool. It's a kind of pretty crazy on the hairy edge. Some interesting things going on there. This other topic I think is interesting is the metaverse, where if you've seen Ready Player One, there's now so you've got Epic with Fortnite, you've got Facebook. All these companies are starting to talk about how they're trying to build up to metaverse, and that's kind of interesting to think through. If that exists, what are some of the ramifications of that?
Well, we've been a big Oculus adopters around here, so we've been dabbling in that for probably the last 2.5 years. And
Like the Saber game.
Oh yeah, that's the one they play all the time. But I'm terrible at it, but I enjoy the visuals. Being growing up being a gamer, and I played on TRS-80s too, so I played text games and out the wazoo early on, and so seeing these kinds of things today and just the way they can drop you into almost any scenario, top of a skyscraper in New York, or leaning over the Grand Canyon. It's amazing what those kinds of experiences can do. It really is like Ready Player One, except not as you don't have the jacket just yet. It's close. The haptic, yes, exactly. Yeah. But they have those things where you can run in place now, so it's probably not far away.
Yeah, it's not going to be too far away.
Very cool. All right. Well, Scott, listen, man, this is everything I had hoped it would be. And, after the few chats we had doing the collector conversations, I knew that, we'd have a lot of fun chatting about your business career and your art collection. So it did not disappoint.
Awesome. Thanks for having me. It's great to see you, and good luck with the decision on the putt-putt. That's always a tough one.
It is.
Well, thanks for everyone. I need to go back and watch all the comments. It's hard to do both, but sure there's been some fun comments.
Yeah, there definitely are. And lots of thank yous, and and Jeff Wedding. Jeff's a big Star Wars art collector, as you know, so I'm sure he really appreciates that one piece that we showed today.
Yeah, he wants one piece of every artist, which is interesting. His grid is Star Wars horizontal vertical artist. He's a Star Wars unique artist-ist. There you go.
Rather than just the Wingoist, as you're getting your followers out there. But hey, listen, thank you everybody for tuning in. This was a lot of fun, and tomorrow we've got that watch party. So I'll tell you, anybody that wants to join me, like I said, I've got 2 slots probably open. We're hoping to have 6 of us on screen during the show. So if anybody wants to join us, feel free to shoot me an email, and I can work out getting you into the show if I already haven't had 2 people ask me. So feel free to do that. And otherwise, thanks again, Scott. I really, really appreciate it.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good night.